my pleasure.
Sorry, she was my mouth open.
Are you waiting?
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Are you ready for us, Elizabeth? Okay. I feel really loud with this today. I'm going to turn it down. All right, we're going to go ahead and do our check-in. Who would like to start?
I can start.
Okay, thank you, Kurt.
I'm holding up the timesheet here, or I'm sorry, the timesheet, wow. I'm holding up the sheet so I can tell who's missing. So my name is Kurt Fazone. I am fine. I'm Chief Negotiator for SPALC. No time constraints today. Missing, we have Lewis. Let's see, we got Tom, Chris Rasmussen, David Montaigne. Deborah Evans is on her way. We're missing Celine Perez, Tony Abrams. And I think that's it. No elephants today. My expectations, make progress.
Good evening, my name is Arlene Williams. I am doing well, no time constraint. Missing have been noted, no elephant, and my expectation is to get something done.
So, good afternoon. My name is Chris Cox. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. This has been noted. No elephants, and I'm looking to make progress as well.
Good evening. My name is Tom Modeski. Fair to Midland. I have no time constraints. Missing's been noted. No elephants. Expectations that we hope we come to a good agreement.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrice Coates. I'm the VP of Paraprofessionals. I am doing fabulous. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants. And I agree with Kurt. Let's make some progress for expectations.
Deborah Evans, I'm doing fine, running late. No time constraints. Missing. Don't know. No elephants. Expectations. That all minds work together.
I'm Will Rothenberg. I'm doing well. No time constraint. Missing from the district side, we have Rob Dodig and Amy Desimore. Yeah. No elephants, expectation. Let's get something done.
Good evening. I'm Heather Leonard, the Director of Staffing and Talent Management. I'm doing great this Monday. I don't have any time constraints outside of our regular time. The missing, I believe, have already been noted on both sides. No elephants this evening, and expectations make progress.
Hi, I'm Kelly Letcher. I'm filling in for Dr. Desimore. I'm doing well. No time constraints. Missing have been noted. No elephants, and expectations is to make progress.
My name is Kevin Kelfie. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants. And my expectations are to make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Bonnie McFarland, I'm doing well. No time constraints beyond our 7 p.m. end time. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and expectation, let's get something done.
Good evening, my name is Roger Lloyd, I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. Missing has been noted, I do not have any elephants, and I'd like to continue to make progress.
My name is Jason Kurtz, Principal Electric Ephrata. I'm doing fine. I have a 5:30 time constraint. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants, and let's make progress.
I am Jamie Broder. I'm doing great. No time constraints. Missing have been noted. No elephants, and get something done.
I'm Shanna Johnston. I'm doing great. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants. And let's make progress.
Marsha Burr. I am fine. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and expectation would be make progress.
Good evening, Matthew Kay. I am well, I think. Time constraints, none. Nobody missing that hasn't been mentioned already. No elephants, and expectations are to make progress.
Hi, I'm Teresa Bowen. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and I would love to make progress.
Good evening, my name is Candy Messenger. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants, and my expectation is to get something done.
Good evening, my name is Barbara Cedino, Director for Maintenance Services. I'm doing well, no time constraints. Missing as noted, no elephants, and expectation is to continue making progress.
I'm Amy French, I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. I do not know who's missing. I do not know the elephants. And the expectations are to help you meet your expectations. My name is John Road. I'm from East County High School. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants and expectations. Same as.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Robinson. I'm doing fine. I have no time constraints. No elephants, and my expectations are the same. Help me direct. All right.
We do have our norms posted back here to begin and end on time. Cell phones on silent, minutes distributed before next meeting. Stay on task, limited sidebars, issues, not individuals. Maintain confidentiality as best we can. Do we need to make any changes or add anything to that? No? Okay. On our agenda today, we have the minutes. So the minutes were distributed today. Did we have time to take a look at those, and do we have anything we need to make changes to? No changes on this side? So minutes adopted as is. I think it's the first time. That's wonderful. Good job, Teresa. What I'm hitting here. Okay, circle that in orange, Rosie, just so we can see something in orange. On our agenda tonight, we do have Article 8, Performance Evaluation. So we have our story, our snapshot here. So Article 8 snapshot, put it down here, so please. So I guess some draft language was shared in SPALC Labor Management to capture the NEAT process. Do we need to add anything to the story? Do we want to go into more story about the evaluations for SPALC?
So I think we sent, just before we got in here tonight, like the refreshed version, I think it had been shared out before, but just to be sure that everyone was looking at the same language that was proposed for Article 8. It's very similar to what you'll see, excuse me, to what you'll see already exists for Article 8 performance evaluation for salary schedule N. And we can provide some feedback from the discussion from our team. Would be interested in hearing what the SPALC team's thoughts are on it, and just to kind of get ahead of this, I think for implementation purposes, it would need to be something that we would be looking at to go into effect for the next school year, since we're already at a point in this school year where people should know kind of how they're being evaluated and kind of have some idea of that.
Anything else? Kirk?
Will, are you able to put the draft language on the screen, and would you mind walking us through the draft language?
Yes, I can do that. I'll pull it up right now. Can you guys see that, or do you want me to put just one page at a time? One page? All right. So just to walk you through kind of the proposed language as we had in the snapshots, I think one of the focuses was trying to capture the NEAT process, which is what we have relied on for performance evaluations in the district for a couple of years, and that's basically notice, evidence, assistance, and time. So we want to make sure that everyone, first of all, knows how they're going to be evaluated, that if a supervisor is coming to them with, an evaluation rating, that there's obviously evidence to support, that judgment. That if employees are in need of assistance in order to perform their job duties better, that they're provided that assistance, and that if they need time to correct deficiencies, that they're given time to be able to do that. So that's just at its most basic kind of what the NEAT process stands for. As we go through some of our different trainings with management on the district side, there's also another process, the FRISC process, that is kind of what happens if all that breaks down. But this lays things out, and again, it's in a manner consistent with what we've already got for salary schedule N. It borrows from what's already existing for the SPALC contract. It takes some of the best practices that are also in the TALC contract. And so it explains that everyone should know how their performance evaluation is going to work, who is going to be doing their performance evaluation, and that they understand that Florida statute requires some confidentiality, that performance evaluation results aren't shared for a certain period of time after they occur. It goes through the procedure. And so this is something that our team discussed. Walkthroughs and observations, they kind of occur informally for support staff. The current evaluation instrument doesn't have anything in there that says there needs to be a formal walkthrough or a formal observation. But again, those are things that happen. And so wanted to make sure that we captured that, and also captured that if something's being documented about someone's performance, that they're notified of that. It goes through the manager's rating, the ability of the employee to comment. Right now, our performance evaluation instrument does allow employees and managers to comment, and that's where I think some of the best information is conveyed to employees from their supervisor. That's where you get to get specific about what it is that someone does well. There's the employee acknowledgement. That's something that's in the system, but basically for the employee to sign off saying that they've received their evaluation. It doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with it, but that they've at least had the opportunity to see it before it gets submitted. There's information about reappointment, and that's language where I think SPALC currently had the most fleshed out and kind of best language in comparison to TALC and the other agreements, because it says what happens if someone is alleged to have committed misconduct or has a performance issue after their evaluation is submitted and approved. And basically it says that you can hold an evaluation, but you have to let the person know at that point that you're holding it because there's an investigation into misconduct, and at some point you need to let them know how that's going to affect their continuing employment with the district. Under the evidence portion, this is something that I think that, again, the SPALC contract currently covers well about inconsistent and unsatisfactory ratings, that there's an expectation that the employee's been counseled and that there's some documentation to back that up. I know that there's been some discussion about ratings and following the same scale as far as highly effective, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory that TALC has in place to allow people to know when they're highly effective. One of the discussions that we've had around that is trying to establish then what is that evidence. Do you need a letter of reprimand to say that someone's unsatisfactory? Or are there other standards that could be set so that it's not just completely subjective. When you get into the timeline language, again, it talks about when the evaluation needs to be complete, how soon after the supervisor needs to provide that information to the employee, and then it's got language about the recommended reappointment status. You can see in there it says April 1st, that's the current deadline for support staff. And then the May 1st for the employment recommendation reappointment status. For SPALC, that's only people in their first 2 years of their employment. And that May 1st is to align with the expectation that if there's an investigation, that there is a date certain that you have to let the person know what the anticipated outcome will be, or if the district is continuing, to keep that person employed. So that's the long and short of it. I know that there was some back and forth at some point, and that we had some conversation with Lisa Vasquez about some of the interests of SPALC. That's the overview. Again, we can provide some of the comments from the district team on other parts of this and what our discussion was going into tonight.
Will, I have a question about one of the last things you said. This is 8.04, number 2, the reappointment status. You said that is only for folks that are outside their probationary period, so that's outside the 2 years. Is there do they still need to be reappointed by the board every year? So I'm trying to formulate my question. They still have to be reappointed.
Yes.
But they have property rights, for lack of a better word off the top of my head, to that position.
Yes, so in the first year of employment, it's probationary. In the second year of employment, the person is on, basically an annual contract, and at the end of that year, once they're renewed, then they have property rights. And so, like you're saying, their name still needs to go to the board for approval every year. But they do have a continuing expectation of employment. At that point, it's more of a formality. The only things that I can think of that would cause that employment then to be interrupted is if there was just cause for disciplinary action, and it would have to be termination level, so something significant there. Or in certain instances, if there's a medical fitness for duty reason, the person's not physically able to perform their duties, or if there were other like compliance issues. The one that comes to mind, is if a bus operator, didn't maintain their CDL. Without that license, they can't do their job, and so that would be the other kind of exception to that. But those are, I think, for the most part, few and far between.
All right, I have another question in regards to the ratings. So what I heard was that if we move from the 3 ratings to the 4th rating, we'd have to redesign the instrument, correct? And come up with what that would look like. I kind of envision that being done at a SPALC labor management meeting, perhaps. So are you looking to maybe get consensus around the idea and maybe tweak the ratings and what the boxes say, maybe throughout the year at labor management?
Yeah, I think for implementation's sake, again, I think as like a rule of thumb, in the first quarter of the school year, you want to be able to let people know how they're going to be evaluated. We're not quite there yet, but we're several weeks into the school year. I don't know that it would be fair to people to change that. I also don't know that it would be realistic. I can tell you, talking to our team, I know there's always the concerns about manageability. And so would that put more on supervisors to be able to, learn a new evaluation system midway through the year while also being asked to implement that evaluation system? I don't think that's realistic. I also know, again, from what our team has shared, I think that right now the ratings for support staff are satisfactory, unsatisfactory, inconsistent, and then there's a box for a focus area. I think there's some confusion about how that works, and whether everyone is using it consistently. I think in most cases, and this goes for SPALC, TALC, administrators, I think in most cases when people are being brought back, there's kind of an assumption that they're at least effective in most ways. I think that the focus area piece, at some schools people will check that and say, this is something that I want you to work on for next year. In some cases people will check that as, this is something that you were working on this year. We've had some of the conversation about inconsistent and unsatisfactory, and I go to the same example every time of the person who said, well, I only punched a student once, so that was inconsistent. And after I punched them and was told that wasn't okay, I didn't do it again. So you can't say that I was unsatisfactory. I improved. Obviously, that doesn't really fit with most people's ideas of how that looks. But also, I think as far as being able to reward people for going above and beyond, that's something that we've discussed. I can tell you too, there is some concern, from our side about what impact that might have on morale, and saying, we do want to acknowledge and reward people that are high performing, but we don't want other people to take that as a negative. You know, if they're if they're doing a good job and they're getting reappointed, you know, we want them to know that. We just want to, you know, be able to differentiate for people that really go out of their way to do more. So I think kind of to your larger point, I think a lot of that probably needs to be discussed and needs to be worked out in labor management, and it may take some time to be able to do that. I know there have also been requests from specific areas like transportation, food services, maintenance, to be able to make sure that the evaluation is more job related. You know, having the line on there about, you know, knowledge of industry standard computer applications might not be something that applies to everyone's job. There might be other things that are more pressing and that allow for better feedback to be given to people. So there might be some room to have that discussion. I know that we've done that in the past with talc groups, to be able to kind of have a focus group discussion and say, this is what a special instructional person's evaluation looks like. You know, because not everyone is a classroom teacher. And so it might need to be a little bit different to make sure that person is receiving meaningful feedback that helps them do their job better, or lets them know that they're already doing a great job.
You said a lot and I want to respond, but now I've lost my train of thought, Will. I'll go back to the first thing. You mentioned the focus areas, and I agree with you. That's not implemented in the same way, you know, across the district. You know, we've represented some members that have had all satisfactories and then, you know, focus areas sprinkled in around. So it's, what am I trying to say? I'm very sensitive to the morale issue. I guess I would like to hear maybe from some administrators what the thoughts are around if these new ratings would change things in a positive way. I mean, because sometimes what we hear is all I can be is satisfactory, and yeah, satisfactory checks a box and gets you reappointed, but you know, sometimes people don't want to just be satisfactory. I'll pass it on. Thank you.
This prior was not a sidebar. I think that as an administrator at the school level, you know, we try very hard to include comments in the comment section for employees that are going above and beyond. But it is true that the current instrument right now, you know, really you max out at that satisfactory on the current, you know. So the administrators that take time and meet with their employees and share positive feedback, I think employees feel good about that. If it's just to check the boxes, that, you know, I can't speak to that, but I know, you know, we meet with all of our employees, we have those conversations. I include it in the comments box. That's also an area for somebody who's effective, but maybe we're working on some things like, you know, Jason's working on being more timely, coming to school kind of thing. You know, not enough to necessarily mark down, but that's an area that we're working on, we've spoken about, we've had conversations about.
Patrice?
Hello. I just wanted to get some clarification of because the current ratings that we get in PeopleSoft, you had said something about unsatisfactory but we get effective, well, we do get effective, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And I know it's been a discussion for a while to include SPALC under the highly effective. But I guess as far as a morale issue, I guess I didn't understand why you feel as though if somebody was to get a highly effective, why that would be a morale issue. How does that affect talc? When they get, because their highly effective is associated with sometimes a compensation piece, correct?
Yes, for talc, there's the compensation piece. I think the other thing, though, is, and I will say this, full disclosure, this applies to me. When I do my self-evaluation, I'm highly effective across the board. And it's not necessarily because I think I'm that awesome. It's because I want to be able to have that conversation and start out with 100%. And then if my boss tells me, Will, you're B plus, B minus in this category, obviously I'm going to say, okay. But I don't want to go in there, saying that I'm a C student when, that's maybe not to my advantage. I think part of the concern, and some of the other administrators can maybe speak to this more, is there are people that come in on the talc side and they have binders and binders, and they're going to do all of this extra to try and prove that they're highly effective. Sometimes it's not necessary, and sometimes it's not. Bringing your binder doesn't necessarily convince someone who's not otherwise convinced. I think the other thing, and it might be better explained by some of the other people on our team. I think what that highly effective looks like, again, in some of those areas might be something that we can, expand on a little bit, because again, I think everyone knows what that looks like, and like Jason said, I think that the real meaningful feedback that people get a lot of times comes throughout the year, or if it's specific feedback and praise in an evaluation, that's helpful, but it's through conversations that take place. It's through, you walk into a classroom, you notice someone is, working with a difficult student and managing it really well. That people are picking up extra hours and really just grinding it out, or taking on the least desirable assignments and not complaining, dealing with absences. There's a lot of those things that I think, again, it's trying to find a way to be able to build on that without necessarily making it, like Jason was saying, a check the box thing where, I just go in and I click a bunch of things and we don't have a conversation, and so it doesn't mean anything.
Also, I think the morale issue comes into play where if employees go out and discuss what is on their evaluation, the difference between effective and highly effective then becomes a bone of contention for people, so that if the conversation isn't had or if the instrument is not clear, it's hard for people to accept one versus the other, and then you've got people mad at each other, and that's where that piece comes in. But I put a lot of comments in mine, and I also add comments if they work with somebody a lot, that person gives me feedback, and I add that, so that's where I tell them this is where your highly effective is coming in, is in the comment section, so that's personalized to them to eliminate upset.
I'm sorry. That's what this is for.
I guess this is very near and dear to me, because every evaluation I've had, I've always been said, they always tell me, well, I wish I can give you highly effective. Well, why can't you? Why can't you? Because it's not on as a paraprofessional, it's not given to me. Why? I've always wanted to know that, and because I have tons of teacher friends, like you said, they do talk. And I think that would, to me, that would increase the morale definitely on the SPALC side. Knowing that we do work hard, whether we're ESE, instructional support, what have you. we do go above and beyond. There are those that do go beyond, above and beyond and deserve to have the highly effective rating. So that would increase our morale, I know that. But I understand the other side, you know, also. So, thank you.
Do we have an option for something? Did you say you needed a caucus?
Yeah, if there's more discussion, I mean, we can do that, or maybe we can caucus for 10 minutes.
10-minute caucus?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys okay with that? Do you need a caucus? Okay, we are back. SPALC, do you have a report out for us?
Sure. We discussed the option and answered a few questions, about the procedure and the ratings. There's a lot of support from our side on amending the evaluation instrument to include the highly effective rating. And we believe that working through labor management would be a great way to do that effective school year 23-24. I have one question about the procedure, the employee acknowledgement. Wondering if you would be amenable to putting in a sentence that describes what happens if an employee does not acknowledge the evaluation. I think we've had a line that says, if it's not acknowledged by X date, there's an override, something along those lines. But other than that, I think we're okay.
So you're saying just add something about like administrative override if not completed by whatever the deadline is. Okay.
Yeah, and what do I want to say? Our conversation around this was really around the timeline that the employees have to enter the comments. There was a story, about if an administrator does the evaluation close to the April 1st deadline, there was a concern that the employees may not have 10 days to put comments in. So I don't know if the April 1st deadline is the deadline that it all shuts down, or if they still have a little bit of time to do their comments.
I think it doesn't completely close. It might be something that the employee cannot see, but I know that Lisa Vasquez is able to open evaluations back up. And so that would be something that I think if there were a question or concern about that, I would kind of defer to her. I would also say as far as like what the final deadline is for that administrator override, because I know that there's, the system opens up at some point for administrators, so they can't necessarily go in October and put in your final evaluation. But that would be something that I think we could try and find out timeframes and share in labor management, just to make sure that we've got the right date.
I'm kind of thinking out loud here, Will. Would an easy fix maybe to add that date into the staffing guidelines, since that date may change, from year to year?
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to put it. Yeah, the due date is in staffing guidelines. You're saying the date, then that if I haven't acknowledged my my performance evaluation, that it would go to administrator override?
Yes, and I guess I'm also assuming that would also be the date, the final time for the employee to add comments. I think I'm blending these two things together now.
Yeah.
But those are our interests. Knowing when the employee deadline is for comments and adding something in there about when there's an admin override.
Okay. I think one of the other things, and this is just like a process thing, but I know that has come up is to be able to have the audit trail too. And I think that's something that that Lisa has access to, that she can see who's gone in and modified it on what dates. I'm not sure if that's visible like to supervisors and to employees. Kevin said it's at the bottom of the evaluation. So that is something that you can see then who went in and on what date, which I think, kind of to your point, might be helpful if on March 31st you get your evaluation, and April 1st it's submitted, approved, admin override, like that would send up some red flags.
Do we have an option we want to put up?
Arlie, sorry, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. So
how long will what's the timeline, from April 1st to when would a cutoff be for an employee to get in contact with Lisa and, add something onto their evaluation? Is it a timeline?
I don't know that there is a set time currently. We could talk to her about that. I think, just kind of rule of thumb, I think she normally doesn't close out evaluations until the end of the school year. And I say that's, I think, because she's working through questions, concerns, issues that come up, people returning from leaves, people going out on leaves, making sure that administrators are able to contact those people and make sure that they've seen it and had the chance to approve it, or at least that they're aware of what it is. But I think we could try and find out that from her. And then just for anyone that's not familiar, the staffing guidelines that Kerr's talking about, those get approved in labor management each year. And it's got basically a list of all the important dates and deadlines for that year. So for the ones that are like baked into contract, like the April 1st deadline, it would say, that's April 1st, or April 1st falls on a Saturday, so, it will be extended to, April 3rd, which is the Monday. It lays all of those timelines out, including the ones that are kind of internal. So if some of these were self-imposed deadlines that we said, well, we want to have it done by this date, but there's some flexibility, because I know there are times when administrators, need a little bit of additional time or would benefit from some additional time. You don't necessarily want to rush people, because that doesn't put them in a good frame of mind, doesn't always, produce the best results. But it would give us kind of something to go off of, and then again, if there's a need to change it, that need to change it would be communicated out to people to say, hey, we've given people a 1-week extension to get this done, so that everyone can do it comfortably, or so that administrators and employees have time to meet, without someone being called in, before their shift, or having it disrupt the work day or whatever else.
Okay, so I have one more thing. So everything that you just said, I feel that should be on both ends. And what I mean is, last school term in transportation. People were, is it somewhere in here? It might be, but right now I got 100 things going on in my mind. How many days, once they do the evaluation, how many days will they basically leave it up for the employee to respond to it? Because we had a complaint that the employee basically, last year was a rush. It was a rush in transportation. I'm not for sure if it was a rush in any other departments, but it was a rush in transportation for the employees to go in and acknowledge their evaluations. So therefore, a lot of them didn't, and then the supervisors put it through anyway. So is it a timeline also, a days that the evaluation is gonna basically be up? And if so, can we just put it in writing so the employee know once they basically make that announcement, because that's how they do us most of the time. They'll send you an email and also make an announcement that your evaluations is out there. So is it a certain amount of days it's gonna stay there before it actually closes?
If I understand right, so what you're saying is kind of like, it has something in there that says that the evaluation should be provided to the employee within 10 days after it's completed. And then like you're saying, kind of, and then the employee would have just, to throw out a number, 10 days to respond with comments or something there. Is that kind of what you had in mind?
Yes.
I think we can talk about that. I would say if putting something like that in the staffing guidelines might be a good place to start off with, because I think one of the things is whether it's captured in the actual evaluation system or not, you do have the ability to respond to any derogatory information that would be placed in your personnel file. And so I think if the evaluation system, timed out and you missed that cutoff, you would still be able to kind of provide a written rebuttal to be submitted and included in your personnel file. And I don't think you would want to necessarily seal the person off from that, but I do get what you're saying as far as you'd like to give them some reasonable time frame to have a chance to look it over, to consult you all if they need to before clicking that approve button.
Right, because basically most of our people think once this is in transportation, I'm not for sure if it's in any other department, but in transportation, the majority of the people feel like once their evaluations have been signed by the supervisors, that they cannot go back and do anything, with that evaluation. So we can talk about that, but we just need to make sure that all the employees know that they can go back. And I have another question. So once the evaluations are done, I would like to know if this is only in transportation or is this across the board? So once your evaluation is done, how often or what is the timeline that an admin can go back, a supervisor can go back and actually put something on your evaluation once that April 1st date has gone?
So based on the current contract language and this proposed language, they shouldn't be changing it after April 1st, unless something happens after April 1st. I think there's been some back and forth over the years over some of that. I'm not aware of too many cases where people will change someone's evaluation after the person has had the chance to review and acknowledge it. And I think that's something that, again, I think Lisa Vasquez polices pretty well. I think it's more often the case that if it's something significant, that the person would maybe get like a conference summary or something if the supervisor felt the need to document it, for moving forward. But I think kind of to your point, it puts people in the position of, during those last couple weeks of the school year or the work year, if it's not something significant, they just make a note and follow up in the fall if it's even, a pressing issue at that point.
Jason?
Once it's finalized in PeopleSoft, then the employee has acknowledged it and it's finalized in PeopleSoft, we cannot reopen it unless there has to be a request to be reopened. And usually that's because of something that, I've never experienced, but I know that something has happened or something, but I think Will's right. That's usually documented as the contract says with, conference summary and that sort of thing. So once it's finalized in PeopleSoft, administrators cannot reopen it.
Chris?
There's a rebuttal. If there's a rebuttal, does that show up in this PeopleSoft where it's seen?
If you respond in the comment section, you can do that, and I think that's kind of what Arlise might have been getting at, is making sure that you have time to put comments, that reflect whatever the conversation was and where your disagreement is. If there's, if it's not, it can be put into the personnel file. So it's not necessarily stored in the same place, but it would be in your personnel file that you could look for it. If someone made a public records request for your personnel file, they would see that, you put a statement in there saying, hey, look, I disagree with what my supervisor said about this, aspect of my performance or whatever it is.
It's not getting carried through.
Yeah, no, I think that could be something that we could have some discussion about in terms of how do we, do we allow time for people to do that? I think the big thing is once the evaluation is acknowledged, it's done. And that's where, like Jason was saying, if anyone wants to change it, they've got to get special approval from HR to be able to do that, and that approval is not often granted unless there were an issue where, you know, the process was not followed at all, or there was some other complicating factor. But I can't think of many of those. No individual ones come to mind offhand.
Arlene?
No, but I'm gonna steal a cookie.
Well, I can tell you in transportation, we might need to look into it. Our running names in labor management, but those supervisors were able to go back and continue to put stuff in, add on to the evaluation after the closing date. So that's why I'm asking, these questions. And like I said, when we go to labor management, I will bring you names and maybe you can look into it. But yeah, we had calls last school term, with stuff happening after the closing date, and the supervisors are still went back and was adding that stuff onto the employee's evaluation.
If it wasn't a final evaluation, it's possible that someone could meet with someone and then change the evaluation rating. In most cases that I'm aware of, it's, you meet with someone and they remind you of the awesome thing that they did during the year that you forgot about, and you say, okay, yeah, I totally forgot that in the fall you were responsible for this. Let me move that rating up. I'm not really aware of situations where it gets worse. I also know, again, there are opportunities for SPALC reps, to go in and sit and talk with someone and say, hey, I don't think that there's enough evidence for you to give someone a negative rating on this evaluation. If what you're talking about occurred, it should show up in the audit trail that someone went in, put in an evaluation, and then changed that evaluation later. So we should be able to identify on those particular ones just what you're saying, that, you met with the person on Monday and told them everything was good, and then on Friday, their evaluation ratings plummeted, and they just went in and clicked approve without looking, and that shouldn't be happening. That audit trail should help us figure out kind of who went in and made what changes and on what date and at what time and all that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Kurt?
So, Amy, I'd like to make a couple of options, please.
Okay, we will get that option. Is 1 second in your paper ready?
I believe I have 3.
So 3 options. Okay, what's your first option?
Option 1, I guess this draft language as presented.
Okay, second option? I see a smile.
My brain is a sieve today, Amy. It goes in and right back out. Option 2 is discussion of, how do I want to say this? Like the discussion about the updated instrument, including the highly effective, to be done in labor management, SPALC labor management.
Okay, and option 3?
Addition of language around administrative override and addition of deadlines to be added to the staffing guidelines.
And timeline staffing guidelines?
We talked about expressing the date by which someone should be able to have their comments, in the staffing guidelines.
So I'm going to read this back to you, Kerr, and you let me know if we've captured everything, if we change anything. Option 1 is draft language as presented. Option 2, discussion about updated verbiage on highly effective in labor management. Is that good? You want some?
Can you repeat it one more time?
Yes. Discussion about updated verbiage. This is instrument, wasn't it?
Yeah, we want to discuss updating the instrument to include a highly effective rating. Yeah, maybe that's better.
So updated instrument, yeah. On highly effective rating in labor management.
Yes.
Okay, highly effective rating in labor management. And then number 3 is addition of language of admin override and timeline on staffing guidelines.
The staffing guidelines, we mentioned including the date by which employees should have their comments submitted.
Okay. Do we want to ask, oh, another question?
Can we call for a quick caucus before we vote? All right. 5 minutes?
5?
Yeah.
You guys, okay.
No.
You mind?
You want to step out? Yeah.
report, please.
So we talked about the three options and kind of our expectations. I think one of the challenges sometimes with bargaining is that we always have model administrators and model employees at the bargaining table, so it's sometimes hard for us to, put ourselves in that headspace of, what this looks like for someone who isn't. So just with that, trying to think of some of the different ways that, things could go wrong, and so making sure that we were on the same page as far as, how to capture that in managerial guidelines in a way that's manageable, that's going to be done consistently.
Did you want to add an option?
No.
Okay. I'll let her get caught up here. We do have three options. Do we want to test one? Do we want to make a straw design? Kurt.
Make a straw design with options 1 through 3.
It's just a second here. Okay, so we have an option here of a straw design with all these three options. Draft language is presented. Option 2, discussion about updated instrument for highly effective rating and labor management. And option 3, addition of language of admin override and the timeline on the staffing guidelines to include the date on when employees can add comments. So we'll go ahead and test that. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with it, thumbs to the side if you can live with it, and a thumbs down if you cannot live with it. Yay, we have an orange circle. Good job. Go ahead and circle the straw design. Come here in orange.
All right.
We do have Article 12 on our agenda tonight as well. We'll go ahead and grab that snapshot for you.
While she's grabbing that, I was joking with Will as we went to caucus. This has been 2, maybe 3 years in the making. COVID really derailed this rewrite as well as Article 12. So we're very, very excited to get this off the plates.
Good. All right.
So Article 12 is about leave. We have our story already down here. We have our interests. We did have a data request about a red line or crosswalk language and statutory language about vacation.
So we provided a crosswalk, and I think we're waiting for some feedback on that to make sure that it kind of met everyone's needs. I'm not sure if SPALC has had enough time to look over that. We also are still doing some of the research around some of the specific statutory language. I don't know if we provided a list of kind of the off the top of our head statutes that apply, but if not, we can give that. I know an important part of the conversation for both SPALC and the district was trying to make sure that not only did we land on language that was agreeable to everyone, but also that we were able to kind of communicate out the changes in a way that would make sense to everyone, since the whole push behind rewriting some of this language was making sure that it's more readable, that it's clear, that it's concise. It would be kind of a misstep if we came up with good language and then didn't roll it out for everyone else in a way that made sense to them. So.
The district provided us with the crosswalk version, and we're currently going through that to make sure everything is there from the previous one. We've given it to the teams just in the last few minutes, so nobody here has seen it. So I don't know that we're prepared to go anywhere on Article 12 tonight.
No, that's fine. I know one of the other things, and this is again kind of as we look at some of the Article 12 language and compare some of what seems to work for SPALC, what seems to work for TALC. Again, I think it might be worth having some of those conversations as well about alignment of the two contracts wherever appropriate. I know that helps us then for implementation or again for communication out. And I think in some cases, SPALC already has the more employee favorable language. And in some cases, TALC might have that. So again, would just kind of encourage the SPALC team, if you guys aren't talking to TALC about what you like and what you don't like, that we would be interested in hearing back on that as well.
We're very lucky to have a direct link to the TALC bargaining team, so we'll definitely do that.
All right, on our agenda tonight was Article 12, and if we're not going to do anything with that, do we want to go on to one of the other articles that are not on the agenda? Or do we do a checkout?
I would just say, since we're missing Rob Dodig and Amy Desimore, it might be better for our team to kind of call it early. I know that leaves some time on the clock. It's almost 6 o'clock, so we're not too early, but I think that would be kind of our preference.
Yeah, I agree as well, and we're missing a few of our team members, so we would like to have the compensation discussion when everybody's here.
Okay. All right, quick checkout, FIST to 5. 1, we did not meet any expectations. 5, we met them all. If I could just see a show of hands today. Did we do it? Oh, 10. Excellent. It's our accountability.
Thank you, guys. All right, well, have a great evening. Thanks for the privilege of your time tonight.